Welcome back. So the topic that we have is data types. Then we have variables and constants. Data types are the types of data, different types of data that you can store in the memory or input to your program or output. We're going to just clone this file by copying it and pasting it here. And we are just going to rename it data types, variables, and constants. That's it. Short version. We're going to open this file. This is going to be the same file. I'm going to omit this for a while. And what we do here is we are going to test what are the data types. For example, I say print 1, 2, 3. What is it? It is an integer. We can add comments as well in the PHP, single line comments. These comments are going to be omitted by the interpreter. This is not going to be considered the code. This part is not going to be considered the code, only the one which is out of it. So we're going to test this. We're going to go back, the new file, refresh this. We'll see our file. We can see 1, 2, 3 has been printed out. Okay. We can also add an expression here. For example, we say 12 plus 12. It should be showing 24 to us. Fine enough. So we know that this is a numeric value, and this is called integer. And the rational numbers are with a dot and fractions. So it's going to print out this value for us. If we have, for example, let's write in here integer, okay, and then let's create one more. We're going to call this one rational number. Again, we're going to create one more by duplicating this line by pressing Ctrl D. I'm going to say false, or maybe I'll say true. So let's see what happens. Just comment these out. The top two instructions we already executed. We don't need to test them again. We just commented them out, and we're going to refresh our page, and we'll see one. True and false are Boolean values. This is not rational. This is Boolean value. Okay. Boolean is either true or false. If you try to print a false value, it's not going to show you anything, although it is 0. So there's one more type before we get onto something else. And that is the string. Any characters or a textual content that is within the double quotes or single quotes is called string in PHP. We can say here, hello to web devs. Okay, and we're going to run this program, and you'll see this is printed out. This is a string because it is encoded within inverted commas. Either they're double quotes or single quotes, it's called a string. I can change these to single quotes, and it's going to work as well. We're going to refresh this and find if it's working. But how can I print this single quote in here? For example, if I add a single quote in here, just one single quote, and I try to execute it here, the program is going to give me error because the single quote cannot be shown within a single quote without an escape key, which is backslash. So whenever you have to use single quote within a single quote, you are going to use a backslash. If you change the enclosing quotes to double quotes, for example, it's not going to create any problem for you. It's going to show the single quote. Fine enough. And vice versa, if it is within the single quotes and you want to display a double quote in here, fine enough, it's going to display the double quote. But if single quote or double quote is within the same quotes, such as the string is enclosed in, you'll have to use an escape sequence, and which is a backslash, and we should change this one to string. So these are the basic types of PHP language, and these are the most used types in PHP. Then we have collection type, which is an array, and you cannot print it directly. So if you have a collection which would be within the square brackets, and let me just explain to you the brackets first. This is called square brackets. If you have this kind of brackets, they are called function brackets. If you have this kind of brackets, they are usually called braces or curly brackets. So a collection is mostly going to be within these square brackets. A code block is going to be within these brackets. A function call will always be within these, and language constructs that we are going to study, the control structures, are going to be using these function brackets. Collection can be like this, of different types. In PHP, a collection or an array can be of a collection of a different data types. For example, I say name of a person, for example, I say Ali, and then I say age, for example, and then I say is he disabled or not, I'll say false, and then I say the salary, for example, 100.50. So this is collection of different data types at the same time. And there's no limit, there's no compulsion on the limit. You can just extend it to whatever you want, and you can even keep the last comma in here. But to print that, if you try to print it, for example, and let's try to see the result, it says error to string conversion. You're trying to print an array. Let's try echo. What happens? Refresh it, and still the same error. So what you are going to do is you have to call a function, a built-in function called print_r. And within this function, you're going to pass the whole stuff that you need to print. You can pass any type of value in here, and it's going to dump down and show you this is an array. And on index 0, 1, 2, 3, this is what we are going to study in the future, in the upcoming lectures. But for now, you can know that an array can be printed like this. So you do understand array. If you have any question, you are going to let me know. This is how you create arrays in PHP. Now we are going to start with the variables. I'm going to comment this out. I'll keep this source code here. Let's create a new file for variables. Let's just copy this and create a new one instead of using the same file. So what we do is we are going to remove this and try to understand the variables. Let's just type here variables. Okay, what are variables? Variables are the brain of your script. They're going to keep the stuff in there. You have to give a little brain to your script so that it can remember something that you want to modify later or print it out or manipulate it. To do that, you'll have to create a variable. For example, you say you have to store the age. You have to store it somewhere to add some number to it or deduct some number from that or divide it by something. For example, I say my name is Ali. You notice this $sign? This is a compulsion. This is compulsory in PHP. Every variable is going to be defined starting with the $sign. And in PHP, you can change the type at the runtime to anything that you want. For example, you said name is Ali. This is a string. We know it already. If I just assign something new to it, some new value of any other type, it's going to adopt it. This is the beauty of the PHP. You can change it anytime. It is going to be integer. If you change it, for example, to this is going to be a rational number. You change it to false, it's going to become a Boolean. So these are the variables that these are the constructs of a language, any programming language. that are used to hold something in the memory for the later use. So this is how you create variables. There are some rules. The variable name should always be starting with an alphabet. It should be a word without spaces. It cannot be like this. There should not be any space or special character in between them. The only special character that you are allowed to use is underscore. And it can start with a capital or small or whatever. If you print it out, for example, you just print the $sign name, and let's test it out in here. Refresh, we have this, and we'll see that the value that is contained within the variable is printed out. This is how you create variables. You can include numbers if you want. You can start with underscore as well, this special character, and you can separate with integers. You can even embed with integers, just join them together. Fine enough, it's going to work in PHP. But if you try to print the name now, it should exist, otherwise a warning will be issued, just like in here, okay? It says the variable is not available. So because we renamed it, we're going to use it like this. Refresh this, and you have your data that is contained within the variable. So any variable that you create, it has the same rules that I told you already. Now let's change it to something else. For example, we say name is this. Age is equal to, for example, I say 15. Okay, let's remove that. They're creating confusion. So this is the age. If I say, is the person disabled or not? Disabled, I say false. And then I say his or her salary is 100.50, for example. So I just try to print name. And because I know I'm going to use echo, and after that, I say, okay, print one space, then print the age, then one space, then the disability or inability, disable, okay? Then I print a space, and then at the end, I print the salary. Fine enough, let's run the program, and we see all the data has been printed out. Fine enough. But how can we avoid using all these commas and separate spaces? What we can do is we can just enclose the whole stuff in a string, okay, and remove these additional stuff that we have here, okay, and then we are done. So we are going to see the same output. How? We are using string quotes, but within that, we are using variables, name of the variables, okay? So this is going to access the value of the variables, but these variables are not going to work in single quotes. If you try to print out like that, with this, say within single quotes, it's not going to print anything from the data of the variables because they're not accessible. It is going to treat it just like a simple string. So we are just going to use the double quotes in here. And the best practice is you always enclose your variables wherever you're using them within the double quotes. You should enclose them in the curly braces, all of them. And in between them, anything you want to enter here, it can be anything. It can be space or any other character, whatever. So let's enclose the rest of these. Just like that. And fine enough. Let's run the script and test it. Okay, fine. Good for us. Now from now on, because we have added PHP in the environment, our environment variables path, so our Genie, the editor, will automatically understand that this PHP file should be run with PHP interpreter. We don't need to go to the browser again and again for now. To run the scripts, we can simply run them from here. by pressing either F5 or pressing this gears button, which is run. So we can see the output in here. We're going to use exactly the same way for our upcoming all of lectures. So now when you understand the concept of variables, we are also going to check the constants. How can we create a constant that should not or cannot be changed at runtime? We're going to include the constants as well. Constants here. So how can we create a constant? We are going to create a constant using a keyword called const. Const. It means constant. And the constant should not be starting with a $sign. It can start with any alphabet. So I say, for example, value of pi is equal to 3.14 and something. So I cannot use it here within the statement, but I can concatenate it or give a comma here because I'm using the echo function. In the rest of the lectures, I'm going to use a print function. So I'm not going to use a comma here because this is the print function for concatenating, for joining two things together so that PHP considers it as a text. We are going to use a dot. Dot is a concatenation operator in here. So what we do is we have put the constant name here and we are going to test our program. Here we go. We have 3.14 at the end. This is how you create constants. There is one more way of defining constants, and that is using the define function. You can define constants here, and this, when calling a function, it will record using the function brackets as I told earlier. So you pass two arguments here. You say, okay, my constant name is pi, for example. Just remove this one, for example. And in here, we say 3.14. Every function call, whenever you call it, or you define a variable, you'll have to use a semicolon at the end of the statement. It means one statement has finished. In here, we're going to use exactly the same. And let's run this program again in here and see what happens. Okay, exactly the same output. I hope you did understand the concept of variables. Variables are containers in the memory. The memory is occupied for these values, and we can later modify them anytime we like. For example, I say age is equal to something else. And if I run the program, you will see that the value is reflecting 70. I can also do is add 10 years to the age. For example, I say age is equal to age plus 10. So this is assignment operator. We are assigning a new value to a variable. This is arithmetic operator, which is used on integers, on numbers. This is a number variable. It is going to hold an integer or a numeric value. So we know we can add 10 to it. And you see the output. The age has turned now 60. I hope you did understand. If you have any question, let me know.